Welcome back, everyone. We have saved the best session for last. Our final leadership dialogue focuses on one of the most transformative forces in the chemical industry today, consolidation. Mergers and acquisition, restructuring, and portfolio transformation are reshaping competitiveness across value chains like never before. Moderating this session is Sonia Abdulrahman, partner at the international law firm White & Case. Please join me in welcoming Sonia to the stage.
Good afternoon, distinguished guests, colleagues, and industry leaders. As Hamid said, I'm Sonia Abdulrahman, a partner at White & Case, and it's a privilege to be here with you today at the 19th Annual GPCA Forum, a platform that has for almost 2 decades shaped the dialogue and direction of the chemicals and petrochemicals sector across our region. This afternoon, we meet at a time of profound transition for our industry. Global megatrends, such as shifting demand patterns and supply chain realignments, to the rapid emergence of new technologies, are increasingly reshaping the competitive dynamics of the sector. And this is particularly as global competition intensifies and margins narrow. The industry is not only being asked to adapt at this time, but it is being asked to transform itself. For the GCC, this transformation is particularly significant. The region has historically leveraged its natural advantages, such as having abundant and low-cost feedstock, availability of energy, and supportive national industrial strategies to build a robust petrochemical sector. In fact, the sector is central to Saudi Arabia's Vision 2030 and the UAE's industrial strategy Operation 300 billion. Both of which highlight the importance of the sector in the region. Today, however, the question is no longer about building capacity, but about building resilience, competitiveness, and future readiness. And so this brings us to the central theme for today's conversation: how consolidation, whether it be through M&A, strategic partnerships, or a deeper regional integration, can serve as the catalyst for the next era of the GCC's industrial evolution. Consolidation has played a transformative role in many global sectors, and of course petrochemicals is no exception. We have already seen global players use M&A as a tool to streamline portfolios, enhance operational efficiency, strengthen supply chains, and scale up in areas such as specialty chemicals and clean energy. In markets where volatility is the norm, we have seen consolidation provide the structural foundation required to withstand shocks and to invest confidently in long-term future growth. For the GCC, consolidation presents a unique opportunity, one that can create regional champions capable of competing at global level, and that can achieve operational synergies across logistics, procurement, technology, and talent. Consolidation can also accelerate innovation and help attract global investment, and ultimately ensure that the region remains at the center of global petrochemical value chains. In terms of M&A activity in the sector, in the region, we have seen the volume and value of deals grow rapidly over the last 3 years. The region recorded 5 deals worth $4.4 billion in 2023, rising to 11 deals totaling $13 billion in 2024. And in 2025 to date, 5 transactions have already reached a combined value of $16.6 billion. But with all of these opportunities also comes complexity. For consolidation to be successful, it requires disciplined capital allocation, clear strategic intent, and meticulous integration planning. It demands cultural alignment, governance clarity, and the ability to harmonize systems, processes, and people. Many M&A transactions may look compelling on paper, but as we all know, not all of them succeed in practice. So these challenges make today's conversation not only relevant, but necessary. The GCC is entering a phase where consolidation is becoming increasingly strategic rather than opportunistic. National oil companies, regional petrochemical leaders, and private industrial players are exploring all forms of integration, horizontally, vertically, and across adjacent sectors. To explore this landscape further, we are fortunate to be joined by two leaders with unparalleled experience in using consolidation as a tool for transformation in the sector. First, we have Eduardo Menezes, CEO of Air Products, a company with decades of consolidation experience in the industrial gases sector, one of the most structurally consolidated parts of the chemical industry. Air Products' journey, especially as it expands into large-scale, low-carbon hydrogen and ammonia projects, offers valuable lessons on how consolidation can accelerate capability, building, and enable participation in emerging markets. Next, we are joined by Alok Lohia, founder and CEO of Indorama Ventures. Alok has led one of the most successful M&A-driven expansion models anywhere in the chemical industry. Under his leadership, Indorama has grown from a regional producer into a truly global champion, spanning feedstocks, recycling, and specialty materials, largely through disciplined strategic acquisitions and integrations. With that, please join me in welcoming Eduardo and Alok on the stage.
Here.
Alok, Eduardo, thank you so much for being here with us today. Alok, if I may start with you, what are your thoughts on today's theme and some of the topics that I just touched upon?
Good afternoon, Sonia. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Nice to meet you, Eduardo. Thanks for this opportunity to discuss. I believe that this particular topic is on the top of every industry veteran's mind today. So this topic could not have been ignored. This topic is and should be the mainstream topic today as far as capacities go and where the industry is. From everything I see across the industry, this is the most difficult cycle we have seen in generations. In my career of 45 years, I've never seen anything like what I see today. This is not a conventional downturn, nor like any cycle I've witnessed. It is definitely structural. It is deeper, it is broader, and is more prolonged than anything we have experienced in recent history. And it is almost across every value chain. The global petrochemical industry is under severe strain. The reason is straightforward: a massive global capacity surge. Over several years, major new capacities have come from China, from North America, Middle East, and now also coming from Turkey, as well as from India. This wave of additions, all within a short window, has created a structural oversupply, and the market simply cannot absorb. Let me put it in context. COVID briefly masked this. Hygiene-related demand, as well as new e-commerce channels, opened new packaging needs and important end use of plastics. And the COVID-related supply chain disruptions and the last-mile delivery further supported strong years in 2021 and 2022, especially for onshore producers, but that had a ripple benefit to the global supply chains. When COVID infections eased, we witnessed revenge travel that further supported temporary demand, all adding up to temporary consumption. Meanwhile, during COVID, the construction of new capacity also was forced to pause for social distancing, which led to above average capacity utilization and therefore unreal strong margins in 21 and 22 in a very low crude and gas price environment. An illusion created by the circumstances that were new and untested, supported by large sums of QE by all countries. Since then, over the last 3 years, the demand has corrected to normal levels, where the new capacities rollout has come through with a vengeance. At the same time, demand growth in some packaging application has moderated due to regulatory pressures. The construction and the auto sector are lackluster, which are very important end users for petchems. All of this adding more pressure to the supply-demand balance. Today, the real picture is clear, and it is not pretty. Cost of capital is at an all-time high, and of at least the last 20 years, energy costs post the Ukraine war has been wrecking competitiveness, especially in Europe, while EU continues to see compliance on carbon emissions. EBITDA for petchems is down by 50%. And that is after aggressive internal cost controls and actions that is widespread across the industry. Margins at these levels are not sustainable, not for the incumbents, and not for the new entrants. So the point is, waiting for the cycle to fix itself is not a strategy. Companies are doing everything within their control, and here is what I observe across the industry. Every company has taken significant actions to reduce cost, the cost transformation, but the margin collapse has been so sharp that cost measures alone cannot restore industry profitability. The consolidation, the partnerships, the M&A, these will help, but true complementary fits are rare, extremely rare. And real synergies are difficult to create, as you mentioned in your, that harmonization, two cultures, getting two teams to work together are difficult to create and only creates marginal improvements. The one that is controllable, and that at Indorama we are doing as well, is footprint rationalization. This lever has teeth and immediate impact because it is within management's control. You know, corporates have been around for 50 years or more, and we definitely have within our assets a bunch of assets that no longer fit today's economics. Footprint rationalization is essential and will happen, and is happening. But all of these together are not enough. These measures help firms survive and even perhaps maintain dividend yield. But dividend yield at this very low and plummeted market share or share price is not that difficult. But they do not generate the free cash flows needed to reinvest when the cycle turns. And all of this is happening while companies are also carrying rising capital and operating costs for decarbonization and circularity, adding another layer of cost at a time when margins are already under strain. That is why I do not expect industry earnings to return to healthy levels before the end of this decade. Reinvestment level margins will only be possible once the broader cycle improves, and that will depend on how sovereign funds, larger energy companies, and the energy transition ultimately plays out.
Thank you for that. I think that's an interesting perspective. You sound quite concerned, if I may say. Is it concern or being perhaps a little bit pessimistic about the outlook of the industry?
I'm very concerned, Sonia. I don't think I'm pessimistic. I'm realistic, I think. I'm a business owner. I've been in this industry for 30 years. This cycle is different because the market's natural correction mechanism is no longer functioning. In the past downturns, low margins slowed investments. Projects were delayed, supply paused, and the markets corrected. But today, capacity continues to be added even as margins collapse. Because decisions are driven by sovereign priorities and not by market economics. This is exactly the kind of disequilibrium Keynes, the economist who shaped modern macroeconomics, described. A situation where individual rational decisions creates a collective imbalance, and free markets cannot fix that. China adds capacity to secure domestic supply. Oil-producing nations expand downstream to diversify revenue. Other regions build for strategic and industrial reasons. Each decision is rational individually, but collectively they deepen oversupply. No company and no group of companies can rationalize enough capacity to offset this individually driven expansion binge. Meanwhile, countries are increasingly weaponizing their structural strengths to defend their market position. China with scale and cost, oil economies with feedstock advantage, the United States with shale gas, and Europe through increasingly green and environmental policies, which we can expect to even strengthen further. All this raises a fundamental question. Tens of millions of livelihoods have been built on this industry over more than a century, especially in the developed world, which stands no chance to compete with the new state-of-art, enhanced technology, fully integrated complexes that have come on stream in the last few years, especially in China, and new large investments in the making in India and other developing countries. This is a reality we must recognize. And recently, an industry pundit, an insider, the S&P rating agency, they published a report on chemicals, and the headline was, "Is it all doom and gloom for the chemical industry?" Within that report, they go on to say, "Will the downturn ever end?" Let me leave you with that message.
Thank you. Eduardo, if I may come to you next. So you come from a subset of the chemical industry that has been consolidating for several decades. What lessons from the industrial gases sector consolidation do you believe are useful for other segments of the chemical industry, and why?
Well, thank you for having me. I'm not 100% sure industrial gases fits well into this panel, but we are like a small subset of the chemical industry, and we're very fortunate that our product has such a low value compared to the cost of transporting this product that our industry is very local. So in that sense, we probably, the competitive environment for us is more similar to an industry like cement or glass than it is with the chemical industry, right? So the way we operate locally. We face the same pressures that the industry is facing in China. The difference is we participate in the market in China as a local company. So we have an operation in China. It's 15% of our sales. I don't think I have one single expat in China, and we compete against the local companies head to head. And frankly, and I've seen the CEO of Ford saying the same thing. It really allows you to be more competitive around the globe. So we learn a lot from our experience there. The reality is innovation tends to come from where you have a more competitive situation. So we are a little different than the rest of the chemical industry. So I understand the situation in the petrochemical side. I personally, when I started in the industrial gas business, the company I started working for was part of a chemical company that doesn't exist today, which was Union Carbide, which is a very large company, and we've seen these transformations in the industry for many years. So I would say that from our experience in that side, maybe the chemical industry has some products that can behave a little more like industrial gases, that can be more local, that the value is, it's counterintuitive to think about that low value is a moat. It's something good, but it's a reality in today's world. And I would say in terms of M&A, we have a lot of experience in M&A, working within our industry. We are always doing acquisitions of distributors, acquisition of smaller companies. I know it's not the message that people probably want to hear at this point, but a moment of crisis is not normally a good reason to do M&A. I think you really need to have complementary economics and synergies, and not be in a position that you are trying to do a M&A just to get out of a hole, especially if you are the target. But sometimes that's what you have. And I would say that the same way we said our business is local, M&A, it's also you need to spend a lot of time planning and be very disciplined on execution and understand the cultural differences, right? I think Mr. Loya knows that very well. He has a global operation, and you need to understand how to integrate these operations in being in Europe, in Asia, or in the Americas. But I would say that's fortunately for us, I think our subset of the industry is a little less exposed to this competition. I joke with people that we're never going to see Chinese oxygen coming to a different country, but the way we compete is by going head to head with the local producers at their home country.
Sonia, if I might add over there, talking about China. Yeah. So the industries that are doing all right today is like one of them is fertilizer, just because China doesn't have that inherent feedstock or strength in there. Yeah. So globally, fertilizers are like 20% up when petrochemicals are 50% down. Another point is when I didn't know about Union Carbide, but I was reflecting on this downturn, and I said that I've never experienced this ever. But then somebody reminded me yesterday only that there used to be an ICI, there used to be a HEXT.
Yes.
Things have changed.
Yes.
And things will keep changing. So deal with it.
Yeah.
Thank you. So coming back to you, Eduardo, Air Products have made some movements in recent years to forward integrate in the production of green and blue ammonia, and moving from traditional industrial gases into well-established chemical products. What has been the rationale for that, and do you see that trend continuing?
Well, Air Products, one of the points, the strengths that we have as a company, we were, the first company to really go through over defense supply of hydrogen in large quantities to refineries and chemical companies, right? And so we are the largest operator of hydrogen plants globally. People always connect that with green and blue, but the reality is 99.9% of our hydrogen production is traditional hydrogen production, starting with natural gas. It's for us this issue of moving to blue or green. We look at that as a business opportunity. If it makes sense for us, we'll do that in the same model that we do it in the blue or green space. So that was a natural extension for us. I would say that going from that to ammonia was a little bit of a step beyond our normal capability. I'm working to bring that back and focus the company on hydrogen, which is what we know and which our area of expertise. But that said, the only case that we are building an ammonia plant in partnership with our partners in Saudi Arabia. Is in NEOM. We're building the largest green ammonia plant globally. It's a very large investment, close to $9 billion. That it's really a marvel from the engineering point of view. We'll need to see how that will work in terms of the economics. But I would say that the region has a very strong capability for doing that for natural resources, which is not only on the hydrocarbon side, very strong resources in terms of wind and solar and so forth. And I would say that this is a product that all this question about, and I agree 100% that only a very small subset of the market will be able to pay for this extra value for these products. And but today we are a little bit of a chicken and egg situation. There is no demand because there is no supply. There is no supply because there is no demand. And our plant will be the first one in a scale that will provide the supply. So we need to see how the volume develops. And just to make a point, I think there's a lot of conversation about this theme about hydrogen. I think using hydrogen as a fuel is a very long shot. It's not a very efficient way to use it. But the reality is, globally, the hydrogen production is something between 80 to 100 million tons a year in production for fertilizers, for oil refining, and so forth. And just to put that in the order of magnitude, I was talking about our project being a $9 billion project. It will make something like 200,000 tons a year of ammonia. So if you just say I'm going to replace 10% of the volume of the existing volume today from gray to green, right? You would need something like 10 million tons, which is like 50 plants, like we have of $10 billion, or $9 billion. So it gives you an idea of how expensive that transition would be. I don't think that transition will happen at that level. But for a business like ours, if a few plants like that happens, it can be an interesting business, and that's what we are trying to do going forward. But our focus is on hydrogen. We try to stay as an industrial gas company, not as an ammonia company or fertilizer company.
Okay. And are there any specific lessons learned that this experience has already sort of brought up? It could be both positive and of course, cautionary lessons learned.
Well, I think it's the first time that we, in our industry, normally, because what I said, the product doesn't travel. Normally, we won't start a project without an end customer. We did on that case. I don't think we're going to do it again. So that's one lesson. But that said, I think the one important thing for us is really the ability to get these partnerships done here in the region. We have not only this project, which is a green project, we have which is almost like the opposite of that, which is an IGCC project, even bigger than this one, in partnership with Aramco and our partners in Aqua Power, and we have been operating this plant, and the ability to create these partnerships and know how to operate joint ventures. It's very important for our business in industrial gases, and it's something that we have to learn every day. The value of the relationships, the value of being present and being open and being absolutely transparent with your partners and your customers and your suppliers.
And I think that you can apply those lessons also to M&A consolidation. I think, as you just touched upon, doing a joint venture. I think probably similar lessons there as well.
Absolutely.
Coming back to you, Alok, I think given everything that you've said and the outlook, are there any experiences from your past undertaking consolidations, M&A activity, integrations that you think would be useful for this moment in time?
Absolutely. And listening to Mr. Mendes speak about this green hydrogen, my fortune changed in 2020-ish, when this electrification, the EV became the driving force. What that did was, to my industry, was, we built a global platform for PET and polyester, which is based on aromatics, paraxylene. And paraxylene, prior to 2020, 2021, used to be the same price whether it was Asia, Europe, or the US. With electrification, the need to build new refineries in the West evaporated. And actually they were closing down. There was a net reduction in refineries in the West. And that led to a price disparity between the East and the West, which could not get covered by the transit cost or by the duties. And that led me to make that decision in late 22, especially after the Ukraine war, when the energy prices in Europe went skyrocketing. And we shut down 2.7 million tons in the last 2 years of capacity to deal with that. So this new green hydrogen, I don't know what that will bring to the industry. There'll be something in it, I'm sure. But that electrification has been a big change. So lessons learned, my hair are gray, nearly gone. There are lots of lessons that we have learned. But I have to get into why did we do those? Why did we go globally and build those or buy those assets? It was because of, number one, because the feedstock price was the same globally. I didn't want to build new capacity. I thought there was enough capacity in the system. So I could acquire these capacities, use my Indian roots, my learnings from my parents, my family, and operate them at low cost and meet the customer needs. It's a commodity. It's not that differentiated. And through those acquisitions, I could get talent. And that talent who already was close to the customer. So I could further strengthen it, but I didn't have to reinvent the wheel. I removed, so that whole philosophy, the whole reasoning behind, the rationale behind that changed in 2020.
And taking some of that, what do you see sort of the next steps looking into the future up to 2030, and how you can use some of those lessons to help the industry going forward to recover?
I'll have to repeat a lot of what I said earlier, is that the companies are doing everything that they can do. We all are controlling all the controllables. But rationalization, cost reduction, optimization, consolidation, partnerships, and they all are necessary and they all will help. But none of them are going to fix the global imbalance. As long as new capacity continues entering the market faster than demand can absorb it. This is now a moment where the sovereign action must complement the corporate action. As Keynes reminded us, when individual decisions create collective imbalance, markets do not correct themselves. And that is exactly why sovereign intervention becomes necessary, not as a distortion, but as a stabilization. Rationalization will be required, coordinated action from governments and companies, not just waiting for pricing to fix the system. And let me be clear, this is not about protecting corporate margins. It is about protecting jobs. It's about protecting people. If margins remain underwater for years, we will not be protecting workers. We will be guaranteeing job losses. The responsible path is to pause unnecessary additions today so we can protect the employment tomorrow. We see some sovereigns respond already. China is adjusting its approach, taking steps to remove capacity. South Korea has stepped in to support its sector. Japan is undertaking restructuring, whatever is left of it. United States has adopted protective measures, as we can see it playing out. And Europe will not remain on the sidelines. We should expect stronger action there very soon as policymakers make or move to safeguard their industrial base. And we have seen this kind of maturity in the past, actually. The Seven Sisters, as they were known at one time, the energy majors, recognized that downstream industries were no longer core to their strategy. They focused on exploration, on energy, on renewables, and left the chemical sectors to the companies who serve the customers. That was very clear, and there was clarity about who should be doing what in the value chain. And we need that level of maturity again in chemicals. A recovery before 2030 will require a combination of coordinated steps. Yeah, maturity amongst the sovereigns, the major energy players, the chemical players, how we deploy our capital. Checks and balances on new capacity approvals. Rationalization that we all are doing. Selective combinations where synergies is real. And phase demand-aligned build-outs, not these block expansions. As the external environment stabilizes, companies must continue to do their part. Streamline operations, reshape their footprint, strengthen partnerships. This will allow us to continue to deliver economic, societal, and fiscal value. If sovereigns and companies act with discipline together, this industry will not only survive, it will emerge stronger, more balanced, and more resilient in the decade ahead.
Thank you. And I think you've shared with us what the industry must do and other players. Would you like to share a little bit about what Indorama is doing specifically to deal with the present state of affairs?
Yeah, I've been very candid. I believe I've been very candid with all our stakeholders since 2022, 2023, on the need to improve our quality of earnings, our own. So no, it's not a blame game. This is something, and these transitions happen. It comes. We had good rationale for what we did in the past, but we have to face the present. So at this time, I have to admit that I did not see the downturn last this long, and I have had to double down on our controllables to hasten and safeguard our franchise. Our agility and our flexibility, being a family company, is driving our transformation. This is what we call IVL 2.0 simply. IVL is Indorama Ventures. We have thus far removed 15% capacity, primarily in EU and North America, in the last 2 years. What we thought will allow us to run at 90% utilization rates, which is essential for profitable. But the severe downturn has been so rapid that we still operate at mid-70s, which is an unsustainable level. So we have to hasten and do more. We have become anal on growth capex, axing projects that have high gestation periods, and focusing on recycling projects only, because that is our USP, being in the PET, the most recyclable plastic. We are cutting management layers across our head office and our business segments in order to cut bureaucracy and red tape. We just grew a lot of fat. We are in active participation, active discussions on partnerships to remove waste in operations and inventory to streamline synergies. This is one pillar which is the theme everywhere nowadays is we've invested in our data pipeline. We just bumped into some of the folks. And we have put advanced tools in the hands of our staff to make them much more alert to the supply chain peculiarities and to respond faster to customer needs. The previous panel was on trade flows. And That has become a big, complex world for a global firm. So I think we have accomplished a lot in the last 3 years, but I think over the next 2 years, we will be in a position to earn reinvestment level returns through self-imposed, self-improved structural margins that will, because I don't think these margins are going to go back to where they were in the last decade. These margins are new, and they correspond to the new ecosystem. So we have to shape ourselves to these margins and go back to be able to get to that reinvestment level of profitability and a balance sheet that can support the future growth. Because our mantra has been, we want to double our EBITDA every 5 years. And that's a difficult one now to maintain.
And inshallah, you'll get there.
Thank you.
So thank you for that. Those were very useful insights into the actions that Indorama are taking. If I come back to you, Eduardo, what opportunities does Air Products see going forward in terms of consolidation or strategic partnerships, particularly in the industrial gases sector in the GCC?
In the GCC,
Or globally?
I don't think there is anything different from what we have been doing in the industry. I think we will continue to try to act locally. I just want to make a point on Mr. Loya's comments that I agree that we have a very unique situation globally in history that if we go back and look at the last time that the globe has one economy making 50% of everything that is manufacturing around the globe was probably in the U.S. in the 1930s, right? And I think we saw how that happened. How that started to unwind. The difference is you had an economy that allowed things to fail, right? Now we have a situation that we have an economy in the form of China that makes basically 50% of every product around the globe, and they really have different expectations in terms of return, in terms of how they look at the business. I think this will be the biggest question for the next few years. I tell people that we all have to read this 5-year plan that China comes, very attentively, because I think a lot of what's going to have around the globe will come from there. I think they are seeing these closures in other areas. I think in the chemical industry, when we start seeing the integrated majors closing sites, like we see the recent announcements on Exxon in the UK and even maybe in Singapore, I think we can understand how deep the crisis is, and I just don't know if the signal will be, understood and acted upon in China, because that's the biggest challenge I think we have as an economy, global economy today, and we've seen this in other industries as well. The chemical industry is not the only industry, right?
Steel.
Yeah.
We saw steel.
It's still, I remember steel is a big customer for our industry. When I started working, 40 years ago in this industry, the U.S. used to make 100 million tons a year of steel. China used to make 15. 40 years later, the U.S. still makes 100 million tons, maybe a little less, 90 million tons. China makes 1.2 billion tons a year, right? So became like 12 times the size. And it is, the steel industry moves a little slower, and it's more connected to national security, so they create some
and Eduardo, this momentum, this momentum is impossible to.
Yeah.
So why I don't expect the margin recovery to happen much is because as soon as margins improve, there'll be another debottleneck, there'll be another new capacity, there'll be another, and especially in developing countries.
Yeah.
So that momentum will keep the margins at And so we have to shape ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think it is a process that we're going to need to see the next few years what China will do with this overcapacity. There is a demographic issue there as well that everybody knows that will play a part of that. But I think they really demonstrated a tremendous ability to innovate, to increase, to grow, and will be interesting to see what happens in the next few years.
Thank you for that. And if I can just ask as well a little bit more about the activities of Air Products. So Air Products is supplying customers in many segments. As you said, steel was one of them, electronics, food. And I also understand that oil refining and chemicals are also becoming, are important segments of your business. So from the point of view of the supplier to these segments, how do you see the resilience and the interdependency between oil refining and the broader chemical industry?
I think it's pretty much what we have been talking about. Oil refining is our major customer in terms of segment for hydrogen. We see some rationalization, but at the end of the day, even with electrification, just the natural growth of the economy in developing countries, in China and India, I think the demand for oil products will continue to be strong, and we don't see a lot of changes going forward. I think in the chemical space is exactly what Mr. Lowe described. It is much more exposed to this competitive environment that you see in China, and frankly, as a supplier in China, we operate very large oxygen facilities for coal gasification in China, and from coal they do olefins and everything, and it's one of these processes that the biggest challenge they have is the capital cost. Once they build the plant and with the cost that they have for coal, they're going to run the projects, and that's the challenge that we have, as a chemical industry, and we need to see how that develops.
Thank you. And just looking forward towards 2030, are there anything you want to share about your organizations and how the organizations are adapting or looking to contribute or transform to your industry?
I think every organization is doing exactly what they're doing in terms of rationalization, trying to be more efficient. Our products went through a process that we raised our capex, our annual capex, very quickly in the last few years from $1.5 billion a year to more than $5 billion a year. So we added a lot of engineering resources. We are moving our capex back to the original numbers, so we are working on reducing that engineering effort. But we are moving a lot of that to China because, as I said, that's where the innovation is, and that we are also trying to use these new tools. We did a lot of work trying to understand how we can use AI in our normal businesses in our products. We decided to take a leap of faith, and we are not only doing projects, implementing projects on AI from a corporate point of view, which is very structured projects with data scientists and consultants, and trying to attack very large cost areas for us, which is basically energy management. So we try to do that in a very structural way. But we also going and taking, basically we have around 20,000 employees, so we're taking 6,000-7,000 licenses on agentic model for AI and just giving to our people and see how they develop. Trying to get this grassroots movement, trying to see what people can develop by themselves, without having the fear that they're using something that will replace them, right? So we would like to tell people that you should not be concerned about AI replacing your job. You should be concerned about someone using AI better than you, will replace your job. And that's where we're trying to make sure that people get into that spirit of innovation and using the tool, and try to be a leap of faith on spending the money up front and see how much benefit we're going to get out of that.
Thank you. That's interesting. I don't know if
I fully echo what Eduardo. We all are doing the same thing, I think. But let me just rewind to one very, very, very concerning statement I got from my team. We are building a business plan for the next 3 years now. And they said, oh, our life is going to be better for the virgin guys, the virgin polymer guys. And I said, why is that? They said, because the virgin is so cheap now, nobody cares about circularity. So our virgin plants are going to run better and fuller. And I said, wow. We have spent $1.5 billion on our circularity investments. Yeah. And you're saying that will be idle and you're okay with that, just because your virgin plants are going to run faster. I mean, that's the state of the 2030 you're asking. So the energy transition will define where the oil price will be. That will define where the chemical prices will be, margins. But all of that is going to still be very, very competitive, and that will hurt circularity. That is my fear. And what we are doing internally are very similar things. Yeah. We also have 20,000 people. One of the things that we made a new profit center for the lack of a new business. Our GCC, we are redeploying our global capability center, putting more people in there with COEs to improve the cost, to harmonize things, to use all that digital platform that we are building. So there's a lot of hope on all of that, bringing 1% or 2% of efficiency, productivity. And every drop counts over here.
And I don't know if you both have seen this question. Is this something that you want to tackle? It's an interesting one.
That's more for you.
Touches a little bit perhaps on some of the themes we've already been discussing.
I'm not sure I can read it properly.
I will read it. Well, let's take this one first, and maybe I look. So there's. Do you want to take the?
You can.
Okay, I read it. I read it.
I can.
The first one was, to avoid a funeral, must the chemical industry marry the waste sector and fundamentally shift from making molecules to providing circularity?
I don't know what to say.
I think we can go to this one. So this one is specifically for you, Alok. Your statement aligns perfectly with the proverb, sales is vanity, profit is sanity. History shows that China will return with greater capacity to compete.
I agree.
Yeah.
Sales is a vanity. Yeah, profit is the sanity. Yeah. No two thoughts, no doubt on that.
Nicely sums up.
And you can take me as an example of that. If you had followed us in the last 10, 15, 20 years, you would see we don't have revenue in our disclosures. I mean, not in the MD&A. The first line is not revenue. It's EBITDA. Mm-hmm. Because revenue you can buy revenue. Mm-hmm. So for us, because it's all about how do we make it productive, how do we make it efficient. So it's all about EBITDA margin rather than the revenue itself.
Any
final thoughts from you as well, Eduardo?
No, we go even below that. We don't talk about, our industry is our sector is very capital intensive. So we don't even talk about EBITDA. We focus on operating profit because capital is so important for us. And I agree 100%. You can buy EBITDA, and that's not the way to do it. So you need to.
That is a lesson learned a bit late by me. we were considering on EBITDA, not on ROCE or not on ROIC. Because we were buying our plants cheap. We were buying other people's second-hand equipment, turning it around. We were after the talent behind those machines. So.
And I think that takes us to the end of our questions. There's nothing further on the screen as well. So really, it just leaves us to say thank you so much, Alok and Eduardo, for sharing your perspectives today. Of course, both built on decades of experience. And of course, thank you to our audience for taking part in this discussion with us, and to the GPCA for giving us this platform. Thank you very much, everyone.